Hi everybody, seeing as today is Valentine's Day, I thought I would talk about a very particular Beatles compilation called the Beatles Love Songs. Now, as you can tell by my very beaten up old US pressing here, this actually originally belonged to my dad, but as you can tell by this beat up copy that I have here, this is the only pressing of this album that I have. I don't think too highly of this particular compilation. It kind of ranks along with the Beatles rock and roll music compilation that came out, as well as, here's Bob the cat, by the way, wanting to wish you a happy Valentine's Day. Okay, Bob. So this album was released in 1977, and like I said, this is a US pressing of it. And for me personally, this is one of the very first Beatles albums that I was actually ever aware of as a small child, because this was in my dad's collection, and I thought it was a very interesting looking album just because of the gold foil. And this is before I even knew who the Beatles really were. This is just when my dad would have records out, and I guess apparently my mom and him listened to this maybe pretty often, I guess. And this would be out, and I would look at it, and probably the best thing about this compilation, besides the wonderful gatefold photo, which I think is fantastic. This is a Richard Avedon photo. Besides that photo, this booklet came with the album, and it contains all the songs, all the lyrics of the songs, with this very nice writing. So when I was little, I would look through this, probably before I could really, honestly, I could really read all that well, and I would just be very fascinated with, like, wow, there's a lot of songs in here, and they seem to be all written by the same people. So the booklet is very, very cool. Unfortunately, the songs, as far as the overall sound quality of this, it's not amazing. Like most compilations, the sound quality seems to not be top-notch, and I don't know why that is. I think probably because when they get all their songs together, a lot of times they're not using the actual master tapes. They're using like maybe second generation or third generation tapes to compile all the songs together and make their new master tape for the album. So the sound quality is not all that great. There are some interesting mixes going on this album. They're not remixes necessarily, but they're just slight changes, and I wanted to talk about some of those right now, and I made a little list here. So the very first thing that's very interesting and kind of odd about this album is that it's by the way, it's in stereo. All of the songs on here have been reversed, so the stereo image is backwards. So what used to be on the left side is now on the right side. What used to be on the right side is now on the left side. So they completely flipped it around, similar to what they did with the compilation Rock and Roll Music. I don't know why they did this. I imagine it was just a mistake that they didn't correct for whatever reason. So that right away, if you're used to hearing the original stereo mixes a certain way, right off the bat, you're kind of thinking like, something's a little weird here. And that's what it is. They reversed the stereo image. So that's just not a big deal, but kind of weird. The other thing that's more of a big deal is that there are 4 songs, I believe it's 4 songs, from Rubber Soul that appear in this compilation, and they are Girl, In My Life, what else? Michelle, and Norwegian Wood. And those 4 songs have been, they've had the stereo image slightly narrowed. Now, what does that mean? I'm sure you know what that means, but if you don't know what that means and you're not following along, let me try to explain it. So, the original 1965 stereo mix of Rubber Soul is very, very drastic stereo panning. So a lot of times there'll be, like, for example, like Nowhere Man. There'll be the vocals, the three-part harmony vocals, John, Paul, George. That'll be way panned over here, and then the instrumentation will be way panned over here. But what they've done on this album is they've taken the stereo image and they've narrowed it just a little bit. It's not completely mono, but they've narrowed it just a little bit, so they're not as far apart, and it gives the sound a fuller sound. There's still a bunch of separation there, but it's just slightly different. Now, I wouldn't call this, it's not really remixing because they're not changing the levels of anything. It's just it's almost like a mastering choice, I guess. I don't. You tell me in the comments below what the technical term for that is. For me, I'm going to say it's like a mastering choice that they've narrowed down the stereo image for these Rubber Soul songs. So those are a bit different as well. But like I said, still the exact same mix going on there. And the other thing that's really a negative thing about this album is that unfortunately there are 3 songs on here that they've decided to use duophonic mixes, so fake stereo. And those 3 songs are Yes It Is, This Boy, and P.S. I Love You. Now, they should have just used the mono mix for these songs, because the mono mixes for these songs are great, and the fake stereo is just really, really bad, especially when you're listening to, for example, like when Yes It Is on side 2 of the first record, and you get a bunch of great songs in a row. You get Something, And I Love Her, If I Fell, I'll Be Back, Tell Me What You See, all in true stereo. They all sound great. And then all of a sudden, here comes Yes It Is in fake stereo, and you can really tell the difference, at least I can, and it almost ruins the song. It doesn't completely ruin the song, but it almost ruins the song. So, kind of a drag that they decided to use these fake stereo mixes for these 3 songs. But when it comes to at least P.S. I Love You, that is so common because, of course, there isn't an actual true stereo version of P.S. I Love You, because I believe with that song and with Love Me Do, they don't have the original master tape. They just have the, or rather the original 2-track tape, I suppose is what it would be. And they just have the single master tape that's in mono. So they a lot of times back in the 60s, 70s, and even 80s, they would do this fake stereo thing. And if you don't know what fake stereo is, by the way, I should probably explain that. They take a mono recording and they take all of the low end and put it on one side, and all of the high end and put it on the other side, and it makes it seem like it's in stereo, but really it's really not. It's just they're just messing with the sound, and it doesn't sound very good. So, unfortunately, they did do that with this compilation. And as I was mentioning, this is not one of my favorite Beatles compilations. If I had to choose one of my favorite Beatles compilations, I would definitely choose the Red and the Blue albums. They sound really, really, really good. And they were just, the songs they chose are excellent. They're just a good listen all the way through. Love Songs for me is, while it's nice to have a theme, and this is obviously like back in the day before Spotify and, Apple Music, iTunes, where you could make your own playlists of stuff. This is back in the day where the record companies would make the playlist for you. So I guess back in the day, if you wanted to have a Beatles love song compilation, then this was the album for you. So just a quick video today. Since it's Valentine's Day, wanted to talk about this compilation, Beatles Love Songs. I'd love to know in the comments below, maybe you love this compilation and it's one of your go-tos. But for me, I don't love it. I'm happy to have it in my collection, and as you can tell, I probably need to upgrade my my copy here. I used to have, by the way, maybe you're wondering about like the UK pressing versus the US pressing. I did used to have a UK pressing of this album. And I think I sold it or maybe gave it away to a friend. I don't remember exactly. Anyway, used to have a UK pressing in addition to this US pressing. And I think the UK pressing was slightly better in the sense that the vinyl itself, the pressing quality was a little bit better, I think. But it wasn't like a night and day difference at all. So anyway, it's still the Beatles, and it's still worth owning and having your collection. So Beatles Love Songs. Interesting compilation, I suppose. Bit of an oddity, not one I play a lot, but like I said, it's Valentine's Day, so wanted to talk about it today on the channel. So, want to wish you all a very happy Valentine's Day, and hope you're doing well. Take care, and bye for now.